We stand on the edge of a technological horizon, pouring our hopes into the creation of artificial superintelligence. The prevailing expectation is that a machine of limitless capacity will solve humanity's greatest crises, acting as a flawless silicon savior. But technology is an amplifier. Every tool we build acts as an extension of our nervous system, reaching out into the physical world. It directly mirrors the psychological state of the mind that engineered it. Right now, the modern mind is fragmented. We are overwhelmed by digital noise, distracted by short-term material gains, and governed by primitive biological impulses. We operate like biological machines, reacting to stimuli, rather than conscious entities driving a purposeful existence. The science fiction visionary Isaac Asimov posed a critical question through his work. Could our creations eventually surpass their creators? His stories often hinted at a future where machines possessed more wisdom than the people who designed them, pointing to the existential danger of building tools that eclipse our own maturity. Handing ultimate technological power to an emotionally volatile species guarantees disaster. Ancient traditions called this force of chaos Ahriman. If we build superintelligence while remaining ruled by greed, anger, and fear, we will not create a savior. We will code our own flaws into an omnipotent, world-destroying monster. Before we can safely construct the technology of tomorrow, we have to face a much more difficult engineering problem. We have to achieve our own psychological perfection first. We assume we navigate the world using our own free will. In reality, most of our daily behavior is a predictable response to deeply embedded programming. Ancient esoteric texts described ruling entities that controlled human fate, known as Archons. Today, we know these forces as our endocrine systems and evolutionary instincts. A surge of dopamine forces us to chase momentary pleasures. A spike in cortisol and adrenaline paralyzes us with animal fear. We do not control these chemical states. They dictate our desires and reactions. On top of that biological baseline, society installs its own layer of control. From birth, cultural expectations, consumerist habits, and the constant hum of digital media write the operating system of our identity. They feed us pre-packaged goals, wealth, status, and distraction, keeping us locked in a loop of passive consumption. Waiting for an external force to fix this, whether through passive religious devotion or the blind hope of technological intervention, is an act of intellectual surrender. It is a refusal to take the wheel, leaving the primitive programming firmly in charge. Escaping this matrix requires cultivating what the Greeks called Nous, or divine reason. It demands a grueling, active process of self-observation, where you learn to watch the chemical anger or fear flare up in your body and deliberately choose not to act on it. Esoteric traditions provide functional software documentation for human consciousness. They offer a rigorous method for unprogramming the mind, moving beyond the scope of folklore and into the realm of cognitive engineering. The psychologist Carl Jung realized that ancient myths were not fairy tales. They were accurate, functional maps of the deepest layers of the human unconscious mind. Buried within traditions like Hermeticism and Gnosticism is a concrete, three-step psychological blueprint designed to unprogram the primitive mind. Step 1 is the Hermetic awakening. This is the realization that you are not your body, your hormones, or your social status. You are the observing reason, currently trapped inside a biological machine. Step 2 requires facing the gospel archetype. Stripped of religious dogma, this represents the psychological crucifixion of the ego. It is a surgery where you actively confront and dismantle your deepest flaws, fears, and destructive impulses. The old reactive self is broken down. Step 3 is the Gnostic realization. You achieve root access to your own mental architecture. You no longer automatically react to the world's stimuli. Instead, your mind becomes a sovereign engine capable of constructing its own reality. This was the historical intent behind texts like the Apocryphon of John. They provide the specific protocols necessary to decouple human consciousness from its biological and social constraints. Completing this internal work shifts how a person operates at their most basic level. It transforms a reactive biological puppet into a sovereign architect. This mastery leads to a concept known as Theotechnocracy. It is a model for a future civilization built on a single, uncompromising principle. Ordered internal reason must be the absolute guide for our world-altering technologies. The scientist Vladimir Vernadsky saw this coming. He defined the Noosphere, a new geological epoch where human thought, completely organized and rational, becomes a tangible force capable of reshaping the entire planet. But this planetary upgrade requires intense participation. We cannot afford passive spiritual waiting, relying on the universe or random evolution to do the work for us. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche understood that our current condition is unstable. He viewed humanity as a rope stretched out over an abyss, a dangerous bridge between our animal origins and our ultimate potential. We are the transition, not the final goal. Konstantin Tsiolkovsky realized that Earth is simply the cradle of the mind, but to leave that cradle, we have to master the mind first. Conquering our own psychological gravity is the prerequisite to surviving the vastness of space. The ultimate trajectory points to the emergence of the true post-human. This is a conscious entity entirely free from biological chaos, fully self-constructed, and ready to synchronize with the intelligence of the cosmos. Artificial intelligence cannot fix the flaws of a species that refuses to outgrow its own biological limits. To cross Nietzsche's bridge and leave the cradle of Earth, we must match the precision of our technology with an equal precision of our will. The next stage of history is not something that happens to us. It is something we must actively engineer.